nice bit of remote recording there. It's good. Item 4 is public session. No one's here this evening. Item 5, apologies for absence. Martin. Item 6, declarations of interest. None. Item 7, confirm the previous minutes. Everyone happy with the previous minutes?
Yeah. Oh,
Okay, this is fine.
both sets.
Right, thank you. Right.
Can you say but double-sided?
Double-sided.
And date.
And date.
Yes, please.
Okay. 18, 11, 20. And then on to item 8, which is the approval of payments and signature of the monthly bank reconciliation. Thank you. You can overrule it already. 20.
So that one is to sign there, sign there.
Right, okay, thank you.
This is a fairly new report that you've had.
So is that item 8 okay? Yeah, this is it. This
That's
is it.
that's item.
Checking everyone's-
Yes, that's
everyone's
it.
happy. Oh, here we go. Mix up the signature and the name. On the second page
And
as well.
The second page is
Right, and then we'll go on to, when we're doing this, item 9, policies. Now, in the past, unless the Marie wants to suggest amendments to these policies, we've just bulk approved them.
up to
We're
you.
happy with that.
Is everyone happy with them all?
Yeah, I didn't see anything.
And happy to refer to full council?
Yeah.
I am slowly working my way through them.
Doing a great job, Kate.
And the 6, I thought 6 was the trouble is you start on one and then he mentions another one, so you want to do that. You get there. I think the next one will be social media and health and safety, and then I'll start. And then there's there's several more to go.
Okay. Have we decided that all of them are strictly necessary?
No,
Or
they're
we
not.
would
They're
prefer
not all
that?
set. They're not all. The ones that are unnecessary, I'm not even bothered doing. I'll just remove altogether.
Okay, a bit of a policy colour, I think that'll be fantastic. Okay, right, thanks everyone. First 9 items done. 5 minutes down. Item 10, to review the second draft of the annual town council budget.
Would you like this on the big screen?
That'd be good. Is that a pain? Well, no, it's not. No, not if it's a pain. I've got my slide.
It's got one here as well, so. So the art is slightly different from it is slightly different from when I presented it before. So the figures in red are the figures that have changed, and on the notes, the writing in blue is the explanation that has changed. So this is entirely done to you now. I've done one bit.
Thank you.
I'm just checking, I did get a change of figure. I'm just checking I changed it. I did, yes. Subscriptions have gone up, I did change it.
There was one question that came up, and I'm sure you've already answered it, but I've forgotten. So we've got the Public Works Loan Board loan to the Town Hall,
Yeah.
factored in the first £4,577. And then we've also got the CP Town Hall at 50,000, slightly down the page, and that confused me.
The 50,000 was, well, when you get the keys back, there is nothing in the budget for the assembly room needs redecorating. It's like the assembly room needs decorating. When we move in, there's nothing in there. Well, there's some old chairs and stuff, but you're going to have to replace toilet. You're going to have to do toilet rolls, what I call white goods. There was no budget for that. That's what that 50,000 is for.
Right, so that's a one-off.
It's a one-off.
So wouldn't that be, even if it all came out of town council coffers, wouldn't that be spread over several years?
No, because you're going to open the.
No, it's a start-up cost.
You're going to open the town hall in. It's now March, April. You're going to have to buy stuff to make it presentable to people coming in.
The problem is no one's actually done the exercise of what happens when the town hall opens.
Okay.
And this is complete guesswork,
Right.
which is really what we shouldn't be doing with a budget. The whole point of a budget is that we actually budget for what we actually need. There's a lot of guesswork going on, which at a time when our precept is going to increase, is not good.
Well, it's quite a big figure, though, isn't it? I just don't know what it's based
Well,
on.
I don't know. I've had
Exactly. Well, Kate's only inherited this, and she's only been here a few months, so I think she's right to put these things in as a cautionary figure. But we haven't. Nobody's done the work which should have been done, which is what happens when those doors open.
Right.
And we're very close to a budget where there's a lot of things that we can assess for the next budget.
Right.
But this is something that has to happen in the next fiscal year. So somewhere or other we've got to be able to afford to make that town hall operational.
Yeah.
But nobody knows what the cost of that is.
Okay.
That's the difficulty.
I'm not against it at all.
No,
I thought.
There's now another bath. You'll need glasses and stuff. You'll need a dishwasher. You need a glass washer. You'll need. I don't know why I'm thinking toilets. You'll need chairs. You'll need tables. You need the office refitting out. I've just plucked a figure of 50,000. The assembly rooms will need redecorating. Okay, that's phase 2. But you can't show the assembly rooms at the moment. So that will be just touched up and painting, and then 2 years just a touch up to make it presentable. And then so I've plucked 50,000. I've got no idea. Well, I've just plucked a figure because we had a new roof done at home and that cost us 20,000. So I'm just thinking it's going to be more.
Yeah. Who liaises? Is that you that liaises with the architects to sort of understand
Yes.
how it is handed over and then what we... Right, okay.
They're handing back an empty shell.
Right. And does that include sort of like Wi-Fi fit out and stuff like that? No. So that's on top. Do we have quotes for any of that? We do. So, okay. So then if we have quotes for things like that, it will be just sort of furniture and miscellaneous stuff. Yeah.
But wouldn't, I say, like, when you've got like a one-off cost, which is quite substantial, like £50,000, and you've added to 1 year's precept, but you wouldn't obviously add it to the next year's precept.
No.
So wouldn't a figure like that typically a council would go, we will budget £10,000 a year
Well,
for 5 years.
you can put.
And then any extra would come if you had adequate reserves, which we do. It seems an awful lot to put as a one-off when we have
At the end of
reserves.
the year, March, you're not going to have a lot of reserves.
But when you say not a lot of reserves,
You should be holding 6 to 9 months in general reserves. 6 months is 234,000. 9 months is 351,000. This is pure estimate. I have estimated that at the end of March, you will only have 292,000 in the bank.
which you reckon about 290, and the minimum would be 234.
Which is 6 months, so that leaves you £40,000 in my. I have in my figures. I have included the entire 600 of the public loan.
Right.
you might have some spare, I don't know, I've just allocated that entirely to the town.
I mean, I'm just kind of pointing out that to me it sounds that a one-off cost like that, which is quite substantial, there's quite a lot to put into 1 year's precept when you know it won't be a repeating figure. So you generally try and spread it out.
Generally what you would do is you would spend several months working through the figures, getting quotes, working out exactly what the operating cost is going to be. So by the time you reach your budget, you put a realistic figure into the budget. We've adopted this as a council from the previous administration, and no work has been done on what's going to cost to open the doors.
Well, of course, we thought we were going to go straight into phase 2, so lots of things have changed.
Well, nothing's changed. It was always going to open phase 1. In fact, it should have opened already. And if it had opened already, then I don't know where you'd have found the money, because nothing's been budgeted at all in this year to do that. So if we'd opened the doors now, it would be an empty hall with no furniture. So,
but no, my point is not the fact that we need this money. I think that's a great idea. My point is just the fact that wouldn't you normally, rather than put such a large amount of capital expenditure onto 1 year precept, you would spread it at least over 2 or 3 years, because the councils can do that. It seems it's inconsistent to put a lot onto your precept 1 year and then you won't need it a year later. It makes sense to spread it if you have adequate reserves, which we do. Seems that's the way I would do it.
well, there's lots of things that haven't been explored on this. As I say, no work's been done at all. We don't know if it's possible to find any assistance, grant funding, or anything to assist with it, because literally the project hasn't happened. So we either go with that figure.
I can take it down to 30.
I think it's a very cautious figure, personally, but I wouldn't want to prove them wrong and find out.
What they're saying, they didn't hear this from me, it's not official. It's now not going to the end of March. What we don't know as staff is what you actually need in the market hall. You know, if you could tell us what you need in the market hall, we could go away and get quotes. But I don't know if anyone's ever what you.
Okay, so I think we have to be then. First of all, we need to determine what's the scope of this. Are we purely looking at furnished fixtures and furnishings?
All you're getting back is it'd be an empty shelf. It's a nice empty shelf.
Oh, I appreciate that.
With sockets and
that's all in there. The sockets and the plumbing.
light fittings, or just
That's all in there. But what I call day-to-day stuff, consumables.
So
I think
we've got stuff in the kitchen.
No, there is a bar downstairs, but that won't be in there.
Previously that was, I've said this so many times, but maybe I'm misunderstanding it, but previously all of that was taken care of by the community trust, who ran the bar, stocked the bar, paid for the curtains, paid for the maintenance, put in the toilet bowl, that type of thing. So I'm assuming that they were going to be doing it.
Oh, don't get mixed up with consumables. We're talking about fixtures and fittings and furnishings here.
Because they're looking at getting grant funding for the curtains, for instance. That's community trust.
Yes, at the moment, the town hall belongs to the town council.
Yeah.
It is the town council's
It doesn't-
responsibility.
It doesn't really matter if it doesn't, because
You haven't handed it back yet to the town trust.
it really doesn't matter, because the trust is funded by us. So it doesn't matter if it needs £20,000, that £20,000 either we pay it or we give it in a grant to the trust so they do it, but it's £20,000.
You know what, it sounds quite pragmatic, I'm not.
Well, I guess we don't know what we need until we have a stock take of what's there.
Well, no,
Or do you know?
we cleared out the assembly lines on Wednesday. There are some chairs. There's two different sets of chairs. One lot's chairs apparently are going, because they're not really good. They're nice chairs, but there's no tables up there.
No.
So there's
What's
glasses and everything, and there's dishwasher and that over
What's
the
that
bar.
table?
Yeah, but there's now going to be another bar downstairs.
Yeah,
Council
so that-
meetings on them. What's happened to all the tables? We used to have our council meetings on the tables. And we had nice special council coloured
Well, there are
tablecloths.
tables up there. It was just so full of stuff. We had to.
Well, let's say that, if we get new tables, I don't mind, because they're horrible, so I have to kind of record.
Anyway.
Okay, so rather than going in circles, I'd suggest this is probably something to put onto the tail end when we know where we are with the rest of the budgets. then we can look at this, and we'll have to trim our cloth to fit whatever budget we come up with for this. So if we decide that realistically we can budget 20,000 for fitting out, then we'll have to manage accordingly within that budget. So I think perhaps we need to look at the rest of the budget, make sure we're happy broadly with the rest of the budget.
That would be great. And also thank you for that. That's why the main thing was just to remind me what the 50,000 was for. But now we know it's for
So
that.
you can spread a start-up cost over 2 years.
You
can
could
you?
do, if,
I don't know.
to be honest, I mean,
Don't know.
yeah, either way it doesn't really matter. It sounds a reasonable figure, which is great. Okay. So where else? How do we want to do things? Have you got other questions about stuff? Sean.
So I'm just trying to find the latest. I have a problem with this link that people keep sending me links to find
I
documents.
sent you the attachment.
You did. I'm just trying to find that one. So remind me where we are on currently on the precept figure, the budget figure.
Precept at the moment is sitting at 602,000, which is 28.75%.
Okay, so that's obviously not realistic. Regardless of whether we would be able to demonstrate that to the public, that we go from 468 to 600,000 precept. That's just not even, that can't even be considered. So the increases that we've seen since we last looked at it
And the figures in the
predominantly have come from where?
The strategy working group, town strategy working group.
Okay, well, working groups don't set budgets, so let's be clear.
Yeah, they sent me some recommendations. Well, Gordon sent me some recommendations from the. Yes, they will have to go to full council. Sent me some recommendations from the strategy working group that they'd like to include in the budget.
Exactly. So the strategy group have had lots of discussions about taking back advice from council with the sort of things that the council and people in the town seem to want. So, for instance, there has been a lot of clamouring for public toilet provision. So we did a little bit of research and worked out how much it costs other councils to provide that sort of level. So we've added it into the precepts, because if it's something that the council wishes to provide for, they would have to pay for it. We've had the debates about toilets and a few times.
Where? I can't see any.
That's the sort of thing that has
When did this happen? Well, this meeting where there's this discussion about toilets and provisions putting into budgets and stuff.
Well, the discussions about the toilets have come up with the full council.
No, we're talking about the strategy.
And the strategy working party. Strategy.
When did that meet?
We meet and ad hoc. Well, we've been using online documents for our work.
That's okay. So,
And everybody's invited, but only.
I've not been invited.
You were. Everybody's invited to the strategy working party. It was one of the first things council did. And we set up some working parties. And
so you've got a working group that's set up to work on a 5-year strategy.
Well, we have realised that the long-term strategy is probably too ambitious at the moment, but because there seem to be pressing needs in the short term, we have come up with some suggestions based on collective reasoning about what we thought the town would benefit from. They're just suggestions, that's all.
So the whole point of a working group is a working group works within terms of reference, and the terms of reference is to create a 5-year strategy to replace the 5-year business plan or plan that exists. So the idea is that you formulate your strategy. That strategy then comes to full council to be looked at. It then has to go through due diligence. It then has to be, before you're adopted, it has to then work out if it's feasible and viable financially. So it then has to have a 5-year budget report to go with it. And then it could be adopted and implemented. You can't just have a group of people meet up on a social site or whatever, decide that they want to put £60,000 onto the budget without any documentation, without any evidence, without any viability reports, without any data or even pricing to back up the costs.
But my understanding is we don't have time to do any of that because we need to get this budget signed off. Is that right, by full council?
The budget needs to be signed off by the January.
Yeah, so I agree with what you're saying. If that's we don't we don't really have time to do
No,
all
we
of that.
have to do the job properly. We can't just keep putting our hands into
I'm
puppets.
not saying we don't do it properly, but if we have to sign this off by January, how is that
Then it-
timescale doing
Well, then
Christmas?
it can't be implemented within this current feature because it can't.
Do you mean financial year when you say future?
Yes.
I'm just trying to understand how we can
So what you have to do is you have to.
want to see
you have to look
in the timescale.
Okay, so there are things in there that we need to look at. Typically, what happens is, particularly when you're administration, the first year is for you to decide where your priorities are, what you want to achieve as a town council, and then you start formulating strategies and plans, and you cost them. So by the time you're moving towards your second year, you then start moving towards an implementation stage where you start then adding costs into budgets so that you can actually take those ideas forward. But we shouldn't be just grabbing numbers here and throwing them into budgets that aren't actually.
I would say the budget.
Well, again, like I said, exactly, we shouldn't be doing that. But unfortunately, nobody's bothered to look at what would happen when those doors open. So we're now stuck. We're a town hall that's about to open, and we've got an empty room with no none. So yes.
Well, I think we have to sensibly then, with everyone's input, come up with that solution because we have to do this by January.
But
So 50,000 seems like a very sensible, cautious budget.
we don't know.
I think so.
But it's
I
not
hear what you're saying.
it's not just
Don't need to
50,000,
go
is
on.
it?
No, there's all of these figures, but I thought that's what we were discussing tonight.
Okay, there's also then a figure in here for £20,000 suggested by the Strategy Working Party, a yearly grant to be given to the Community Trust to ensure the town hall facility is open to the public Monday to Saturday. So, give me a breakdown of the 20,000. Give me the pricing, the quotes.
Well, that was based on the costs of providing public conveniences, right? So I looked at all the budgeting. Froome mentioned that to other people. So they budget about £30,000 a year to provide public conveniences, and there seems to be
No, I'm not talking about it. I'm talking about the town hall.
Well, there seems to be quite a lot of appetite in the town from people and from councillors to provide public conveniences, and so that would typically be the budget, up to say £30,000 a year, just to provide them. Now we're quite lucky with St Norton to own several assets that are run by the Community Trust that have conveniences. The problem is they're not always open. This has been mentioned. People have come to the council and say, well, town hall's great, it's got a toilet, that's super, but it's not open. So, well, what would be super then is if it could be open more. And in order to do that, it obviously requires some staffing. So we're well aware of the fact that the Community Trust...
So is that a staff cost, 20,000?
Well, it's one of these things, you can do both. So you could be able to have some reception cover where it's necessary in places like the summer centre at the weekends and the town hall, which means we can have these buildings open with somebody looking after it, but not making that person do a bit of work by taking bookings and all that sort of thing. They can make our public facilities available to the public, which everybody seems to want. So you can see it's ticking sort of 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 boxes at the same time.
So what you're actually proposing is that the Community Trust employs someone on £20,000 a year. Is that your suggestion?
Well, it's not my suggestion. It was definitely.
What is it?
We thought it is something that could maybe address the concerns of making these public buildings available, certainly weekends, where they're not at the moment.
Am I right thinking the lady that also presented to us said about a volunteer, sort of a combination of maybe a skeleton staff
Yeah.
or part of the community trust or whatever from that budget, and then the rest sort of wrap around with volunteer? Was she mentioning that?
Well, that's what
So again,
well, here's the problem. So we've got to figure out 50,000, which we've put on the back burner for now. Now we've got £20,000 to employ someone to open the doors. We haven't even established what the utility costs of the building are going to be. They could be 20, 30, 40,000 pounds a year. We really are completely in the dark here with this, and this budget is running away on figures that are almost on the back of a cigarette packet, and it's very concerning that we're going to ask the public to pay a precept. At the moment, we're talking about a precept increase from 460 to 600,000 pounds.
I know.
And we can't even base that on any actual credible
well, I think
figures.
if we have to get this done by January, I hear what you're saying, that you're right, this is a sort of like a put our toe in the water and guesstimate what these figures are. But surely if we do guesstimate and then we go off and do our research, then we have...
But in the meantime, you've stuck your hand in the residents' pockets for money.
Yeah, but it's not going anywhere, is it?
It's going out of their pockets because they're paying it in tax.
Yes, I know, but also
You
it's
don't
going
give it back to them.
well, it's going towards something that will benefit that they want as well.
What they want is to pay for food, pay their heating and pay their mortgages.
So
They don't want us taking excess
would you
funds
rather
from
them not do the town hall scrap it? Because I don't understand
I'm saying we
sort
need,
of
what I'm saying
the
is,
idea is.
what I'm saying is we need to work out a minimal cost to get us through the first year of that town hall reopening. It's going to reopen at a pace anyway. So we just got to make sure that we've got some furniture to go into it and we can actually open the doors and we can actually pay for the heating. But at the moment, as I say, we're talking about £50,000 plus £20,000 plus whatever it's going to cost to heat and run the place.
But surely the architects have that running cost of the... They don't have an approximation of how that's going to run with the services. So
If I may interrupt though, so the town council, the town hall's not a new building. That's been there quite a while. And the town council wasn't paying for the heating before.
No.
And the heating should be considered less now because it's, well, it won't be more.
No, okay, I think we'll come down the road that we're paying £9,000 for their gas, they're now paying £28,000.
But we shouldn't have to. The town council didn't pay for the heating before. That's a fair point. I realise that utility council.
Who paid for it?
The community trust.
And where did the trust get their money from?
Cinema board.
That didn't pay for all the heating. The town council paid for the heating by giving them grants.
£15,000, that's it.
Right, well you won't heat that place for £15,000.
Well, I know, but then that also takes in money from the cinema and the bar and...
How much profit does the cinema make?
I think it makes a healthy return. I have to double check the figures. It's not minimal. Remember the community trust turns over about...
Oh, I'm not talking about turnover, I'm talking about profit.
Well, the community trust...
Does it pay enough to pay...
It's a non-profit charity.
Isn't that a town council budget? Like, isn't that an individual business plan for the town council, that answer?
Well, no, because any shortfalls have to be made up by the town council.
True.
We're getting grants.
No, but we don't, you're asking questions we don't have, aren't you?
Exactly, I'm just trying to say that we can't...
I hear what you're saying.
And all I'm saying is, in this budget at the moment, the strategy group, which shouldn't be setting budgets anyway, they should be putting forward strategies to full council to approve.
Well, that's what their strategy is.
So at the moment, there's £5,000 consultants to work with the town council to develop a strategy. Okay. So the strategy group want £5,000 to get a consultant to do the strategy.
Yeah.
Okay. £10,000 a year allocated to sponsor youth nights to be delivered by the community trust at the Sona Centre.
Yeah, we're quite thinking that.
So
a lot of people
we're paying £24,000 to provide youth services.
Yes.
And now we decided that we can do the job better because we're going to pay £10,000 competing against them to provide youth services.
Well, not really. I mean, the conversations that I've had on this really is that the current youth provision that Youth Connect South West provide is relatively niche, I think, is that the right word? It's fairly targeted. And there seems to be a lot of feedback that there isn't something for the wider population of youths in Midsummer to do. And this comes back so regularly. And apparently there used to be a youth night at the Wonder Bar, which is slightly before my time, it was well attended. We're aware of the fact that the summer centre is coming back under community trust management, and so there have been discussions about ways we can make it useful. So this seemed like a wonderful sort of project to introduce a decent youth night where Youth Connect South West will help us provide that. The council can hopefully step back, but as far as we're aware, nothing like that really exists at all at the moment. All the premises in Midsummer Norton seem to be licensed, apart from maybe if we get McDonald's. So that was the
but what I'm saying is everything's a little bit ad hoc. There's no substance to anything that we're looking at here. I mean, we need to make a decision first of all. Are we going to take over the Sona Centre when it comes back under our control in April? And if we are, that's great. We've got community space. We can use that for youth services instead of a metal box out the back. Great idea. We can use it for our council offices, which is a great idea. We've got a car park.
Might be.
which is a great idea. There's a cost to doing that because we're taking over control of it, which means that we'll be paying for the utility costs and all of those things, which are being paid for by a tenant at the moment. But in principle, I think it's a good idea. But again, we've got no facts or figures.
Well, this is it. I mean, but we have
The
to kind of.
practicalities.
We have to kind of come up, and this is where it's a kind of further discussion, but I think there's a pressing need, I think, for action on youth provision, and if we don't budget something for it now, we'll be 25, 26 by the time it happens. We've got a community building coming online, which is the summer centre, which is perfect for what for something like a youth nightclub. And I don't, if we don't make provision for it in this year's precept, it won't happen.
But we've got to. Everything has a cost implication, and it's just what we're concentrating on here is the budgets, and budgets need to have substance and be based on something more than hopes and dreams. We've got to have facts and figures to base these things on.
Strategies are kind of more of a kind of hopes and dreams, but really working out what everyone seems to agree that the town doesn't have but needs.
Okay.
So we've kind of put forward those sort of ideas.
So there's another 16,000 here to cover the cost of CCTV, to cover the town hall, Garden of Friendship, and St Chad's, and also pay for a radio system.
Well, this is because the town council budgeted obviously £6,000, I think, the last precept for security, which you held us to.
Don't get me onto that one. That's another mistake by the council.
Fair enough. Okay, but moving on, obviously that money hasn't been touched. If now it's come up, council, before security concerns in the high street. It seems to me, and other people have spoken to, that something Baines should be more actively involved in, but they don't seem to be. Now, as far as I'm aware of the fact, from what I've learned, there are CCTV in the high street which doesn't work. They're speaking to some of the pubs. They say that there's radio systems which are not connected, and they should be. I feel the council should put money aside to make these things happen.
So can I interrupt there? You were saying that there isn't in the budget currently 6,000 for street marshals, and you're saying
Well, it's security, sorry, it wasn't street marshal.
It hasn't been touched.
That's right.
It has actually been touched because it's been used against, because on some items you've gone way over.
Yeah.
So that money had to come from somewhere.
Oh, I didn't realise it had been varied.
Okay.
We have varied,
just-
but at the moment you are 17. I have estimated you are £1,700 over budget at the moment.
Right. I mean, the point is that obviously the £6,000 budget
but
is
if-
going to make a lot of difference.
But first of all,
if people are concerned about high street security, though, don't we have to start making some provision to make it better?
we do, but if you put in CCTV,
Yeah.
okay, so let's assume £16,000 does the job and we want to put in CCTV in those areas. So first of all, who's watching it? Where's the CCTV going to, and who's going to monitor it?
Well, in exactly the same way that the Summer Centre CCTV has done great work for security at Gullet Town. So it's not actively monitored.
Yeah, you don't have to have it actually monitored, you just have to be able to
Okay,
put it back
so-
on like a hard drive.
It provides an evidence.
So then we should be really then starting by talking to Baines who can monitor CCTV.
We've asked, and Baines don't seem to be proactive, whereas the council, and I've been on this council for a long time, and the early years were taken up by residents telling us that their lives at Gullet Town were miserable. And the council, eventually, we had a discussion, we said we have to do something, and we did.
So-
Very good quality CCTV was put in. We put in that special alligator teeth system, and now there's no antisocial behaviour down there. So
Okay, CCTV without monitoring is basically primarily there to gather evidence. It doesn't tend to prevent things from happening. It just provides you the evidence that it happened. When it's monitored, that's when it starts to be more preventative. And you can intervene before things happen or while things are happening. So, secondly, the radio system, there is no pub watch scheme in the town. There is no communication between the pubs or the venues.
but probably need it. Don't say it.
Well, they, at the moment, they have the means to talk to each other, but they don't. So I don't think a radio system, they have mobile phones, they have WhatsApp, they don't use any means at all to communicate with each other at the
Because the
moment.
previous marshals came to us and said that they needed that, and the council were about to buy a whole bunch
It
of
was-
radios.
So when, at that point, we had marshals, and what the marshals did was they worked as an interface between the pubs on the radio. They also worked as the interface between the high street and the CCTV, and the high street and the police.
So you have CCTV.
So if you had that, which we do have CCTV, monitored by Bath,
Does it work?
some of it, not all of it, but this is the thing. So you've got a camera at the moment in High Street, and it sweeps because that's all it does. Until somebody calls the CCTV office and says there's an incident, immediately the officer goes to that camera and in Bath and he puts it on the incident, and that's when it becomes its most effective.
Is it really? And then somebody comes round with a blue light a few hours later. I don't know. I think.
So
I don't rely on that.
Yeah, so what happened, but it's very, on being its most effective is reliant on it being connected to CCTV and having somebody in the high street that can alert the CCTV to manually monitor it because of an incident.
I mean, I don't think we'll ever have those sorts of resources. What we found at the Summer Centre is areas which are covered by the cameras do not get damaged, because the few people that have damage and have been caught, and obviously the word's gone out, and don't do that. And if you look at the sweep of where the cameras are, people are clever enough just to go to the side. Not that there are dark spots. It's all covered at the moment.
You know,
So it is an effective.
I went over there to get a takeaway from Soyfield last night, and I was disgusted at what I witnessed in terms of youth behaviour, inside and out. So, and that's in a well-lit building
Where was
with
that?
people. The Hollyport.
Oh, right.
Anyway, what I'm saying.
So another thing as well is it's unfortunate we've not had a town trust meeting yet, and we have been pushing for it. So the town trust obviously owns whatever land it has to look after, and the one that's been quite worrying recently is that the statue of Mary has been under attack in the Garden of Friendship. So it's under safekeeping of leave at the moment, but apparently it's priceless. It's one of these things that was carved 300 or 400 years ago or something, and it's like, yeah. So, and it just sits there behind a perspex screen. So I thought, well, it needs better protection. So,
Well,
I don't know, if we don't, we'll be sad to
so-
lose it.
So in terms of budget, there's a £16,000 in there for CCTV and radios, but we have no idea, there's no figures, factual figures to support that number or to justify that figure. And say we've got £20,000 towards keeping the town hall open during the week, plus another £20,000 for the community toilet scheme.
Well, no, I don't think it was that. I think it was two.
Well, there's two figures here, 20,000 is...
There's a bit of crossover. It's funny, I was speaking to the community trust the other day, and actually, it may not be necessary. I think it's a neat idea of being able to have these buildings open, but of course, we are hopeful that the Summer Centre will maybe be able to provide enough income to pay for a member of staff to provide that function. But we don't know because we don't know the finances yet.
Well, we've got a lot of unanswered questions there.
Yeah.
I mean, just finishing off with these, so there is 20,000, there's two 20,000s, one for to keep the town hall open and another one for the toilet scheme. And then another 10,000 put towards grants for a focus of cleaning and maintaining buildings.
Yeah.
Well, we've already spending £100,000 on the shop facade
We're not.
project. Well, it's part of the town regeneration project.
Is that coming to an end?
Sorry?
Isn't it coming to an end, the shop front improvement?
Well, the reality is that they haven't had a brilliant take up to it.
I know.
In terms of, you know, they're saying we will pay 50% of the cost of regenerating the front of your shop, and actually they've actually gone beyond that 50% figure, and it's not, you know, it's just a reflection on the fact that businesses are struggling to survive, let alone put new facades on the front of their buildings.
But one of the things that
But
came
this
out of the strategy discussions were, and this comes up a lot, is lots of parts of the high street and some of the buildings look untidy.
Yeah.
So whereas the Hazardous people have gone in with quite serious changes to like Missy, their planning application ones, will make long-term differences. I personally believe that businesses should have some form of collective funding to provide for the service, but because it's not happening and residents are complaining, the strategy group thought the town council should put some of the budget aside
Of course.
each year for fairly cosmetic improvements to the high street, which might be offering some building cleaning or extra work that we feel other people should do. It's not happening, and residents complain about it. So we thought maybe the town council should take some proactive
Okay.
approach.
But my point is that the total of these figures adds another £61,000 to the budget. So no wonder it's got up to 600,000, because there's £61,000 in here with suggestions from the strategy working group that aren't based on any tangible detail in terms of numbers or
I think it's
or
the
data.
timing again, isn't it? So you're right, they do
I think-
clarity on the figures, but can we not consider a ballpark figure to put in the budget for next year, whilst
So-
also assigning ourselves to get clarity on the actual costs? So that as we move through next year, we know, oh gosh, that's looking like it's going to be so high, we're not going to commit to that.
But I think there's basically three sections. There are first of all, there are obligations. We have no choice. The precept has to cover our obligations in terms of looking after our assets and our real estate and our commitments, financial commitments as a town council. So there's that figure. That's our base figure. Then there's that, we're moving into that area of expansion, which in this case is pretty much the town hall, but it's also the Solar Centre. And then on top of that, you then move into another area, which is things that your aspirations, things that you'd like to do to develop the town further and to make it nicer, but really they're not in that list of necessities. And I don't know what that base figure is before we start adding on things. I suspect it's probably very similar to the existing preset figure.
Well, I would twist that, what you said about aspirations as well, because it is aspirational, but also we do stand to make money or to start,
Well,
once we've got the town hall open and once the summer centre, they could potentially make money as well. We've already had that presentation, we've already paid a lot of
sorry,
money.
but that, yeah, the presentation demonstrated that certainly for several years it won't be making any money.
Well, no, of course it won't make money. Nothing ever does for at least 3 or 4 years.
At
But
this,
I think we either just leave it then and don't spend another penny on it.
No, what I'm
or
saying
we
is,
have to.
so we have our obligations that we have to meet. And I would say probably the town hall is moving into that area of obligations that we have to meet, because it's going to open and we can't have an asset that we've spent all that money on that then sits there dormant. So we have to come up with a minimal figure that we can use to get that place operational for the first year. Now, I would suggest that there has to be a figure, as Kate's already put in, probably not 50,000, but there has to be a figure to decorate the inside, to make it functional. I would suggest, as far as the operational side of it's concerned, we already have a part-time post on our system for an admin person, don't we? Which we haven't filled. So I would suggest that we add that admin into the staffing costs so that we have the option to take on that part-time admin person.
But I agree with that. I think that would make
in with the staffing costs, so we are, I'll just get the figure, is 25,000 for the grants officer, because to look for grant, obviously we don't have time, we don't have the
Sorry, with grants, so
do you want to increase that figure to also include another part-time admin?
So where do you think all the grants came from? Who organised the grants for the previous?
Donna did.
No,
they came from
Baines.
They came from Baines and they came through we were lucky to get the high street.
But they said that there is no grants for they couldn't do grants for phase 2.
Who said that?
Because it's no longer heritage.
Who said that?
Dave Gossett from Baines.
Okay, so there will be various funding streams that are available going forward. However, what we didn't really tap into in phase 1 were some of the big external grant funding options, because we didn't get that far. Now,
I think they were refused.
Well, no, I don't think they were refused. I think several weren't actually applied for. Now, the advice is there are people that should be able to get considerable funding towards a large publicly owned community building, over and above just going cap in hand to WECA and Baines. So, as Kate pointed out quite rightly, we can't expect our current staff to dedicate all this time to something that they're not necessarily trained for. So I think it's quite prudent to try and get a fundraising specialist in to help us.
Okay, but I think we need to, this needs further discussion with Baines first, because Baines were responsible for the bids, the grants that were received.
The ones that went to WECA.
WECA and Heritage England. So Clio managed those grants, not the town council. The success rate on grants wasn't great in terms of the overall.
Most of it came from SIL and and Baines and stuff. You're right. We didn't manage to get lottery money. We didn't manage to get it from the letter of absence. But those things are still available, and they were being looked at. And actually, if you go back, those bigger grant fund pots were kind of earmarked for phase 2.
So just to be clear, the 1.5 million that phase 1 has cost, 300,000 was the original grants from Heritage England, roughly. 585 was Heritage England's money that was allocated to the rest of the high street, that was taken and put into the town pool to prop up the failed bids, basically. So that's 585,000. You've got 600,000 public works loan.
No, there's a bit more than that. So I'm just
Yeah.
figures.
You've got a few little bits like the Architectural Heritage Fund, which is 25,000 towards. But basically, the bulk of it has come from either the 600,000 that was taken from the rest of the high streets, or the public works loan, not from grant funding.
No, that's true, but that's why we feel a specialist.
But before
we'd be good at that sort of thing, because I mean, other towns seem to get good quality grant funding for their community spaces.
It depends what you're after. It depends what you're after. That's the trouble. I mean, these pockets of money. I mean, as the council have proven, green space grants are relatively easy to find. Whether you want to build a town park or a Willowbrook walk or whatever, green space grant funding is relatively easy. And having found it, there's the Southern Valley Rediscovered grant funding coming in now, and it's green spaces, but it varies depending on what the project is.
Well, again, that's all. That's kind of WECA administered, isn't it, through Baines? But in terms of phase 2, some of the big funding opportunities still haven't been explored, and
okay, but we're talking spending 25,000 in
I don't know how much it would cost to employ a specialist.
20. I would say 20 to 25,000.
I think as well,
And
you
that's-
can probably, well, from what I know about funding consultants.
To get a decent charity fundraiser, it's probably about 20 to 25,000
Okay.
a year.
But that needs to be looked at within the phase 2 project as a whole. You're putting it straight into our.
I've put it into your budget for 24-25 because the hope is to start. Get the dates right. The hope is to start work in 2020, beginning of 2026. But to start work in 2026, you have to have got that funding in place. So you would need that funding about 6-7 months beforehand, which is in your 24-25 budget. So you really need to start looking for grants.
You're not going to achieve a £2 million grant in that short period of time.
No, but
regardless of your.
No, but you're going to have to start looking in the beginning of your next financial year.
Okay. So you've got 25,000 allocated to the staff budget for that.
I've added in 25,000 for that. So.
See.
And see what else we can.
And then, well, the problem is you've now got another member of staff on there for 25,000 to try and find us grants. You've got another person on there for 20,000.
And they are
to open the town hall.
They're kind of short-term consultant, which is better.
You don't have to employ them as a member of staff.
No,
you can
consultant.
employ a funding consultant and say, you can sort of go, can we have a preliminary meeting for couple
It
of
would
hundred
be
pounds.
it would be more expensive to have a consultant than a member of staff.
Over 50 years?
I would say 25k is a big budget for a funding consultant.
you've had
But if you employ them for a significant amount of time, it's obviously not. But if you said 3 months work with X amount,
If they're still there in 5 years' time, if they're still there in 5 years, the problem, it's not work. We can't work funding
Yeah.
something in
Yeah.
5 years. So.
But you've just added on, with your 20,000 that you've added on to employ someone to open the town hall, so you've added £45,000 on in staff costs. I mean, we're starting at 460,000, and you've added on, you've taken that over 500,000 just on additional staffing costs.
Well, one of them, the funding consultant kind of one-off, and obviously if they manage to bring in a couple of £1 million funding, I would say it's quite good value at 25,000. So that's a kind of separate one. In terms of the extra staff, I mean, it's funny. This is why I think the community trust is going to require an extra member of staff sooner than the town council, because obviously the town council has 3 members of staff, and what the community trust needs to do, in my opinion, I think what people would agree is these buildings, these town assets need to be made available more often.
Yeah.
So I mean, we don't want the town council necessarily working Saturdays and Sundays. I don't feel that there's a lot of drive for that. Whereas the community trust, we want to be providing services at the weekends. So that's where we think.
Okay, but yeah, we haven't even done the work. I mean, so if you want to open this town hall, so you want to open all day, every day, right? So now you're going to have to work. Probably you're working into shift patterns now, because you're opening it in the evenings.
Yeah.
So one member of staff isn't going to be there to open it at 8 o'clock in the morning or 9 o'clock in the morning and close it at 10 o'clock at night. So and if you're then going into weekends as well, you're talking about a shift pattern, not one member of staff to
But
do
during
that.
the week, of course, we're quite lucky in the sense that we have the town council, will have their office in there. But then we need a little bit more cover into the evening. So that's where you kind of get a bit of crossover. But then obviously the community trust needs somebody to start being available, and they've been talking about the town hall itself could do a reception function, because when people go in off the street with a query, it might not be obvious to them whether they want either directions to use the toilet, which is probably very common because the light in the toilet opens again, but also they might want to go to raise something with the town council, but they might want to go and book something. So these are sort of different things I might do. So a sort of reception function, if we could provide it in the town hall, might be really good, and that would totally help what the community trust are trying to do.
They're great ideas. All of this would be fantastic. If money was limitless, all of this would be amazing. But we're looking at a budget, and I appreciate that. And in a different meeting, it will be a different discussion. But we're looking at a budget here, and at the moment, we're talking about a ridiculous increase in the presets.
If you're talking percentage-wise, it is a little bit, it's quite large, isn't it? Now it's interesting because do you know what our preset is at the moment? It's £115 a year. So that compares, now I find these preset figures are so dotted all over the place. The current preset figure in that stock's 160, which is a lot bigger than Midson Northern. And Froome, my goodness, is the one bit of feedback I seem to get at our farmers markets. Why don't you do what they do in Froome? It's going so well. Their preset's £280, almost twice what ours is.
It's going to jump.
Which the Froome one. So it's going up from 208.
Well, Froome, I don't know Froome, but obviously you are aware of Somerset's situation.
Of course.
I have heard rumours that several town councils in Froome are increasing their budget by over 100%.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
But
that doesn't have any relevance on us.
No, but what I would say is one thing is our precept is relatively low. So credit to the previous councils for keeping it low. I think that's good. I do think
that artificially, because I mean we've just had to pay £40,000 out to pay invoices that never got put into the budget.
Okay.
I mean, it's
the thing is, if we want to provide services, right? If we want to have good youth provision, if we want to have well-used community spaces, if we want to have public toilets for people on a Saturday afternoon, something that St Martin doesn't offer unless you go to the leisure centre, I don't see how we can do it without increasing the
Well, we can't.
can't do it.
We know that.
So what we can do is, because costs are going to go up anyway, so what ends up happening is the council purely becomes a bureaucracy. The costs go up kind of like this, but nothing gets really better. And I'm kind of the opinion at the moment, happy to discuss it, that if I were not on this sort of precept setting side, I'd go, well, I want you to do stuff. And rather than just say, oh, it's going up 10 or 15% for no reason, because that's what happens. If they say it's going to go up by £2 a month, which is what we're looking at, well, what are we getting for that? Oh, well, at least we're going to have the toilets, or we're going to have toilet provision, and the nightclub does sound good. And at least you're going to address some things like getting this neighbourhood plan finished, as opposed to just talking about it. So that's kind of thought, is like,
who are you talking to? Because that's just not the feedback that I get from residents.
what's that?
Now, what they want to know is that we're being financially responsible.
Well, we would be.
That
We'd
would be
raising
a
enough
great
preset.
idea.
This isn't. This,
If you get the precept as it is, we won't even meet our costs they are.
Okay, but financially responsible means that everything is costed and it's been tested. These are just figures plucked out of the air, and that doesn't give the public, and it shouldn't give the public
Well,
any
they're
level
not
of
figures
confidence.
plucked out the air. They're not figures that we've had enough time to scrutinise and get quotes in for. So I do
They're plucked
believe
out of
in
the
it.
air.
Well, no, they're not actually
Okay,
just
tell me-
plucked out
can
the
you
air.
tell me how
Well,
fifty-
because we've discussed it and we've said that 50
Based on what? Based on, show me an invoice or a quotation.
I'm agreeing with you.
Right, it's plucked out of the air.
But no, it's not plucked out of the air. There is thought put behind it, but there isn't enough detail for what you would want, or to look people in the eye and go, we know what
There's
we're
no
talking
detail.
about. What?
It's
That's
not-
what I'm agreeing with you.
Yeah, it's plucked out of the air.
But, okay, we agree with you. But equally, we have just
We have,
discussed that
yes.
the 50k is actually quite a good, sensible pluck out of the air. Because we don't know, we have to put a figure on it before January. So then what we need to do is, once we've decided on that, go off and get these details that you want.
Right, okay.
Isn't that a better strategy than drilling into numbers that we don't
What I'm
have
saying
the
is you
answers
can't go to the public with a huge increase in the precepts without anything. You need something more solid than numbers plucked out of the air. There needs to be
for.
something,
But we've
some
just said that,
substance
haven't we?
behind
We've
them.
just said we need to get substance
Well,
behind
okay, we
it.
just argued about whether their figures have been plucked out of the air or there's any substance behind them. And I can't find any substance at the moment.
Well, I think between all of us, with the historical information that we have, that we know that's a bit woolly at the moment, but Kate has done a lot of work on that. You are obviously Mr. Scrutiniser, which is great, so we need that on here. But we're sort of arguing the toss over butting heads. I sort of think we now need to find the details that you want, that we need to understand. Is it 50k, is it 45, or is it going to be 60? But actually 50k is in that example, it's a sensible example that we've all
That's
discussed.
the kind of thought about the youth club, right? So we still have to have, the Youth Trust will do some decent discussions with Youth Connect to narrow this down. But you kind of think, well, say £10,000 might be a bit high. People might say we do it much cheaper. But I kind of feel that the town, if it really wants to fill this gap, which seems to be, everybody says there's nothing for a certain demographic of children to do. You know, they can't go and watch football because they can't go into the pubs and all the rest of it. So we kind of feel like, well, you set a budget, say £10,000, which, you know, puts the precept up by so much on its own, not very much really. And you say, we're going to do it well. It's not going to be a sort of, you know, a half-baked job. It's going to be something that it's not proud to do, to say, look, we've put a bit of money in, as a town council, to provide a really good youth facility, which is the kind of must-go-to place for kids between 12 and 17. And so £10,000.
How much would it cost to do it?
Well, at the moment, like you said, we've plucked it out of thin air, but
Exactly.
I think the thing is, sometimes you do have to set a maximum budget. Like if you go on holiday, you say, well, I'd really like to go to this place, but my budget's £10,000, so I'm just going to have to manage. And so that's kind of, we thought maybe we can discuss maybe £5,000 might be better, especially when Youth Connect South West come back. But we thought, well, roughly £10,000 put on a really good youth night that everyone says is ticked a box. So that's one way of budget setting. I know what you say, it's not the detail yet. By the way, we go, how else do we do stuff? It just never happens.
Well, I say, first of all, we've got to meet all our obligations,
Yes.
and that includes putting in a provision for the town hall to function for its first year.
There's only Kate kind of did for us, isn't it? That's like you put in a kind of, this is your
Well-
minimum budget. It was like an 8-9% rise or something. That was like
The budget I presented to you on the Halloween was 11%.
11. Okay, nice.
Okay. And now?
It's 28.75.
Okay.
But what's that in money terms? Because remember, money means more.
We have this, we go around this cycle.
Well, it's
every-
important though, because money,
Yeah, Baines is the same.
Baines have just put everybody's council tax up by £60 a year and committed to repeating it for the next 5 years.
Yeah.
Our town council is talking about doing less than half of that. And quite frankly, as much as I think Baines should be doing all the stuff that we're having to do, it's not happening. And residents are going, well, why aren't we getting these things? So maybe the job of the town council was to step in and say, people want it, we can pay a relatively small amount as a council to actually make it happen. That's kind of where I'm thinking.
I think by next year's budget we will be in a very strong position to put together a very solid costed budget that we can hang our hats on and say, look, we know it's going to cost us this much to run the town hall, we know it's going to cost us this much to maintain all of our assets and to meet all our obligations. So we will be in a strong position at the next budget. This budget, we're not in a strong position at all. We lack detail and data to be able to put this budget together. We don't know, we're struggling with commitments that were made by a previous administration that we have no forward figures to know what it's going to cost us next year.
Well, there was some, there was the town hall business plan, which was based on some numbers, based on how much the town hall was used, expected footfall and income. So there is some idea. I don't think the summer centre, for instance, has managed without any support at all from anybody for a while. Now, I think the building itself could probably do a bit of tarting up, but it's not been it's not seen as a liability. I think that building's meant to be fairly self-sustaining, if not profit-making to a small extent, isn't it? It's quite a new modern building, which doesn't seem to be used as much as hopefully the community trust will be able to use it. So hopefully that won't be a big liability for the council. I don't expect it to.
Well, we haven't got any tenants lined up.
Well, the existing people, I'm not going to throw them out, I don't think. I don't know if I'm hoping we won't necessarily throw out the existing people.
I mean, do you know how much we get as an income from it at the moment when we lease it?
What, Baines?
The summer centre?
Well, currently it's I've heard it's very, very small indeed.
Okay.
But it is enough to support a person's work, so it's not subsidised. So hopefully the subsidy won't be too big. I mean, we might have to invest to make it really good. I mean, there's going to be a good nightclub, a good youth club, it's going to need a telly. It's good to watch food.
Oh, yeah. But there's 2,000 and 10,000 gone. As I say, I'm very worried. I mean, as I say, all these numbers worry me. The basic numbers that Kate's come up with are relatively solid because they're based on historic numbers, and we know that they're correct, bar allowing for any inflationary increases and stuff. But everything else is.
But we kind of agree with the sentiment of these things that would be great if the council could provide. That's one of the things I think wasn't, to me, clear from last year's precept deliberations. There was no ambition, there was an increase, but no real ambition. So it's like we're just kind of paying extra because that's how it is. I kind of felt that it would be really good if this council might be able to be in a position to say, well, we're going to achieve some things. Okay, we're not perfect in the numbers yet, but we're going to achieve certain things. And
absolutely, but I think your ambitions have to be staged. You can't achieve everything in 1 year.
Yeah.
And the big ambition that you want to achieve, which is to open the town hall, will be next year's big ticket item. That's the one that's the one that's going to take all the money to get that open and make it functional and make it work. So I don't think there's much scope on top of that commitment, that huge financial commitment there, to have too many more ambitions.
You're probably right in many things.
The following year,
there's a couple of other things that I think, because it partly as well, it's like you're kind of putting money aside now, knowing you're going to need it. Because all these different projects, if we do want to achieve them, we have to start planning for them now, even if we don't have the figures. There was some simple ones like the neighbourhood plan. Now, it hurts me to say this, but we cannot make the progress we want to make, and I don't believe we're going to get the support that we're probably entitled to from the authority, because they don't answer the phone or our emails. So how do we go forward? And this neighbourhood plan has to be done. Now, the neighbourhood plan is going to be worth an awful lot of money to the town council when it's done.
Well, it will, but that's another. But on that one, you want another 20k for a consultant.
Well,
for a
I
neighbourhood
looked at,
plan.
I mean, from the
Or
research
for a consultant.
from the research
for-
we looked at, and most town councils get external help to get a plan done, and they seem to cost between 10 and 20,000, the average being 13.
Yeah.
So
And
that's,
don't get me wrong. I think whatever it costs, we need to make it happen. But my point is, you've got 25,000 here for a grants consultant. You've got £20,000 for a neighbourhood plan consultant. You've got £5,000 for a strategy consultant. You've got there was another consultant, wasn't there? I don't know what that one was for.
business.
So you've got 50,000-60,000 pounds worth of consultants fees in this budget, and it's right to be ambitious, but we've got to be responsible.
We do, but some of these things will be, like the youth night, I think, is a great thing. I kind of keep on pushing for it. Personally, it depends what everyone else thinks. Some of the stuff, though, to do with like the neighbourhood plan, it will pay for itself in short order when we get over the line. So it's really, it's not going to cost anything. And it's kind of the same with the fundraising consultant. There's no point of having, they will save us money. At the moment, we're having to take big loans to pay for stuff. It'd be better. I think we should be better getting that from funding. I mean, I think someone made a wonderful point the other day that either our town gets this grant funding or another town does, and that's what the fundraising person will do for us. So some of these things might seem a little bit scary, but they're going to save us money. Well, they've got to. That's the point, isn't it?
Well, time will tell. But I mean, the neighbourhood plan, yes, that's a given, because if we increase our take and sell money from 15 to 25%, that will pay for itself. Not in the first year, but in subsequent years, once that plan's in place, then we'll see that money come back.
Yes.
So that makes financial sense.
And can that be spread over, Kate? Because this was raised by Tim, which is a good idea, because we're going to go for a short, lightweight neighbourhood plan. Because some town councils seem to do ones that are for 15 or 20 years, but they get overruled by the local plans. So Tim's idea is we should really have a document which is constantly worked on, which can then be re-submitted for referenda on a more regular basis, and that's why we'd have an ongoing budget for it.
You basically, in the first instance, you need a very basic, light version that will be approved.
Yes, totally agree.
Because the point is that we need an approved neighbourhood plan. We don't need one with all the bells and whistles that takes months or years to negotiate with.
It's kind of what we're after. It's just I don't feel we're going to get scored for it. Anyway, hopefully consultants. I mean, it hurts me because I would love to just write it myself, but not much.
Okay.
So anyway, we're happy with the neighbourhood plan. The strategy thing, I think, is something that I'm probably unsure on, but I think collectively sometimes the town councils seem to struggle to articulate what we and what the town needs, and that's why I sometimes think professional development is the way to go forward.
Well, I mean, I don't know how much support there is in the town for phase 2. I honestly don't. But it's proving to be quite a distraction, and it has for several years. And it's reached a certain point, which is great, where it can open and start to be functional. But it's continuing to be a major draw on finance and resource. And I'm not comfortable that we need to be focusing on other things other than a town hall. And it is going to be our big ticket item for the next financial year.
Well, it's something, to be honest, that previous
without-
council put so much effort into it. It's almost formed the core strategy of the town council, which is fair enough, to provide a cinema and civic hub on the high street. We all kind of get that. It sounds like some form of phase 2 is going to be necessary. I mean, we can't just leave it as it is. I rather like what someone like Wendy came in and said, we want the cinema to have the best. What I kind of feel at the town hall is we might have to get one chance to make
I
it
think
great.
phase 2 as well, if we're going for grant funding,
Yeah.
will be predominantly grant funding.
Yeah, but we need to figure out how the best way is to attract the grant funding, and whether through discussions with Baines, who are officers that are trained specifically to do that. That's what Cleo and her team do. Is they manage this. Every penny you got was through her team.
Yeah. Oh, it's wonderful. I mean, it's wonderful.
And
I don't know.
Who's going to contact me?
The town I think the town hall is
Anyway,
a wonderful
not
opportunity.
yet, Magic.
It's a wonderful opportunity to get, if we can get phase 2 done. We know we can't do it in the short term. It would be
No.
prudent for us to look at doing it in the medium term, because a half-baked version is in danger of being quite elegant. Some people thought it might be. But the actual plans really provide something very special. Not many towns anywhere are going to have. So it'd be horrible to miss out on that when it's so close.
it can open and function now. And maybe phase 2 is too ambitious. Maybe it doesn't need to be 2 million. But we've had that discussion in a previous meeting, and I'm sure it will happen in other meetings as well.
Well, I think this is the idea. We can without committing to it, we can plan for the best outcome, which is where a funding consultant comes in. I think because we can't expect the current administration to do fundraising for us. It's just not what they're there to do, and they're busy enough. So a short-term member of staff is better.
Okay, but the point is we can't do everything. We can't pay £25,000 for that and £20,000 or more for staff at the town hall, and then pay for it.
I get it.
We've got to be
choices.
We can't do everything in 1 year,
No, I
and we need to decide which of these are priorities that we want to fulfil in the next financial year.
Yeah.
Which ones we will take the time to look at. For example, the things to do with CCTV and stuff like that needs the communications working group or whoever to sit down, look at exactly what we need, what it would cost to do it, what the justification is, what the benefits and
We
drawbacks.
managed at the Somerset. I mean, the previous council managed to get CCTV coverage in Somerset. It's worked really well. So it seems a shame we can't repeat it. I mean, Sean, I think you're totally right. We're going to have to make some choices. There are probably too many things out there for one fell swoop.
Well, first of all, I'd say
things like the toilet provision may have to wait.
well,
Which
so
is
things that,
always
okay,
unfortunate.
so first of all, I mean, if you forget the business grants to focus on cleaning buildings, that we can find another way of doing that. We need to engage with the businesses themselves.
Well, we see that, but then the feedback always seems to be it's just very, very hard. And I mean, so many people seem to just say parts of the high street look tired, and there's a bunch of us walking right after the farmers market going, it just needs a clean.
But
I mean, you
but
don't
what
need a new
you've got,
building. So maybe if we could just have a little ongoing grant budget for that, though, just for little business grants. That
we
might
can't
help.
afford it. Not with all this other stuff. I mean, and the fact is, what we're trying to do is we're trying to take our high street off of life support, which is us keeping it alive with money, and it becoming self-sustaining and growing.
Yeah.
Now, it's happening. We have got some organic growth. We've got McDonald's, you've got Poundland, you've got Witherspoons, you've got footfall increase. You've got more restaurants in the town now, so there is signs that there is growth within the town.
That's wonderful.
Yeah, and growth creates more wealth, creates more attractiveness for more businesses to move in. They in turn will take over shops, and they will want to do their own shop fronts, improvements and stuff like that. And it's better that it does it that way rather than, say, being on a life support system from us, paying out thousands of pounds.
Well, we were just thinking, I mean, the strategy group kind of thought we don't want to do a pizzazz type thing, which is doing proper structural stuff. It's literally just an ongoing commitment. Partly so the town council can just say and do, we are in our own small way providing some support to the high street. It's a constant bit of feedback that the town council isn't doing enough to support businesses in the high street. So I thought it'd be quite good if
Is that
councils could
support?
just say,
Well, we need to decide what support they need, and if we could solve the problems by cleaning their shop fronts,
yeah.
that would be that easy, but it isn't.
But someone could do
So,
a good scrub.
I know they could, but is that how the public want us to spend their money?
Well, the feedback is that parts of the high street are a bit tired.
Feedback, we haven't got feedback. That's one of the problems. So I think £10,000 for that, I think, is something that could be.
You don't want to spend it.
We could push the £20,000 for the toilet scheme. Well, I think we need to do work on the toilet scheme and work out if we're going to do the scheme that Katie mentioned, which is that we're going to encourage businesses to open their doors.
And the trust have offered to do it, which is perfect.
Right.
Community trust, which is perfect. So they can do it on a community toilet scheme by the community trust.
Okay. So we can talk to business about them, because at the end of the day, there's mutual benefits. If they open their toilet to the public, they get footfall into their business.
And in practice, of
So
course,
£20,000 is
the trust already owns quite a few, around quite a few buildings that have loos. So it's kind of, yeah, it's great.
So we can take that 20,000 out as well and look at, and
So we don't want to provide the toilet provision yet, but hopefully we'll still be able to provide some.
I think the last thing I saw, we were still looking at the feasibility study of what's the best provision and how to provide it. We haven't actually...
Keeping the existing toilets we've got open seems like quite
I
a
thought
bit.
Peter did that, we decided that was the best option
Yeah.
after his piece of work.
Well, this is the problem. We didn't actually come to any conclusions
Yeah.
from any of it,
Yeah.
and we need to bring that to a conclusion.
Yeah.
So if you take out the 20,000 for the public toilet, and you take out the 10,000 for the high streets, that brings it down to 572, which is £572,789, which is a 22.34%.
Yes, and that reduces the precept nicely
Yeah.
from £147 to 141.
I would also say that you need to...
So it's £6 a year you're saving for Bandy property. That's £50. That's brilliant.
I would say also at this point we should remove the 16,000 for CCTV and radio systems.
Well, I don't know, I just feel that if the council can't contribute towards a high street economy, can't contribute towards toilets and can't contribute towards security, what do we do?
Well, I think if you're going to work about security, I would worry about the youth issues we've got in the town, which aren't going to be solved by that camera. They would have been solved by things like street marshals, but we can't afford that at the moment. But we have a big issue in this town with young people, antisocial behaviour in the high street. And that's the danger we've got for this increased footfall we'll see for this new business, is people already being put off coming down the high streets because of antisocial behaviour.
CCTV provides an evidence base though, and we don't have that at the moment. So at the moment, if you were to phone 111, sit there for about half an hour, make a cup of tea and get through and say, oh, I'm feeling a bit intimidated tonight.
The high street has it. The high street has CCTV.
It's not active though. If I feel intimidated, if a person walks to the high street and feels intimidated, because there's some intimidating people,
What
you should.
you're going to
what
put,
do they do?
So you're going to put your camera next to the Baines camera?
No, well, we could cover things like the town hall to prevent it being vandalised.
Well, that's something that perhaps needs to be looked at within the town hall costs anyway.
Right.
But
Is
not
that
in
becoming
terms
part
of...
the island, for instance?
No, but in terms of... No, we're talking about high street safety here. The high street already has cameras. Now, we can have that discussion with Baines about which ones are functioning and which ones aren't.
Have Baines cameras ever picked up on anything and charged any children? They have. Okay.
I heard they were.
When was that?
Yeah, I've been to magistrates' courts with one of my daughter's staff before to discuss where we went in because of an issue that had been picked up by a rear camera.
Anyway, I was going to say, because we do own considerable assets on the high street itself, like Town Hall, quite keen that people don't go chucking bricks at our Town Hall windows, so it's good to have some coverage on the island.
Well, okay, so we need to look at our, obviously, protection of our own assets.
Yeah.
So that alarm system, CCTV, that's normal for a building like that anyway, isn't it?
There will be an alarm system going into the town hall. There isn't one. There will be an alarm system going into. There isn't one at the moment, but there will be one.
Yeah. But what we're talking about here...
Ring doorbells.
So this 16,000 is talking about putting in CCTV coverage for the high street.
Not just the high street, because sorry to interrupt again, because it was really disappointing that the St Chad's Well, which is a beautifully done up in the last few years, and it used to be covered by cameras, and now the cameras were taken away because the police said for some reason the cameras needed in Bradstock. So the mosquito that makes the sound that my children used to hear that I couldn't, and the camera's gone. And every single day I walk through St Chad's, and every single day it's strewn with litter, and every single afternoon the poor woman must come and clean it all up, and then the very next day it's covered in litter again. And that's got worse since that camera was taken.
But the cameras won't solve littering.
Well, it will though, because children will get
it. It does sort of like discourage it.
I think we can't afford to put a camera. So if you put a camera there, and then you put one on the town hall, and you want to put one in the Garden of Remembrance, and you want to put one down by there, and you want to put one on the town park, and it indicates that you've got a bigger issue. That you've got an issue that really isn't going to be solved by CCTV.
With the previous council had quite a lot of times that kids, fairly innocuous in my opinion, had done silly things like playing football against defibrillators or graffitiing or whatever, right? The cameras picked it up, the picture was sent to the school, and they sent me really kind of heartfelt, fairly poorly composed letter saying, I'm really, really sorry. Basically, I didn't realise I'd get caught, and I didn't realise how much damage I'd done. I won't do it again. And guess what? Those places have not been refusing to do damage.
Well, the kids I met last night wouldn't be bothered about that, I can tell you.
Well,
The language they use to me, they wouldn't be worried about that. So,
I think as well, we have got to admit that teenagers are learning how to be
I think-
adults, and they you know, I don't promote.
so I would say,
If I took the 16,000 out for the street marshals, it then brings it down to 556,000 at 18.90.
so the 16,000 for the cameras and the street marshals.
Well, I've put it under the street marshals,
Okay.
which is the 16,000.
I mean, we do need some. We're not going to be able to bring back street marshals, certainly not in the short term. We might find that there is a need going forward, particularly when the footfall does increase and we've got these extra businesses running.
£30,000 a year.
Can I?
What?
I mean, that's
What time do we finish?
really good cost.
Right.
It's a big budget, and the only way I can see that happening
I'm going to
is
suggest
if we
it's 10
find
to
some
9.
collective
Yeah.
system where
Can
businesses
I
are
make a
be happy.
suggestion
Well,
that
well-
we need to decide whether to increase the precept or not, and we need to decide whether the customer, which is the people living here, will be happy to pay a slight increase, because all of this is null and void
No, this is
unless
what
we
we call
increase the
debates.
Very
precept.
good point, Charlie.
I mean, no, but if you look at that, if we're thinking about
So,
our community members, they have to either be on side of paying us
I know.
20, 25, 28% increase and getting X, Y, and Z for their money, or not, and maintaining the status quo at best.
We
That's
can't.
how it is.
Okay,
That's the basic.
That's right, you're looking at a 15%
All of this
increase
is
to get
detail.
25% increase to get nice stuff on top.
Hmm.
But it's going on.
I would argue it might not even maintain the status quo if we keep it the same. It
No,
might
its
go
costs do
up.
go up, and it's uncomfortable as it is. You're right, we're almost going backwards.
I think it's a really silly idea if you don't increase the precepts. If you look at Somerset
I think
Council,
we
they're
should
going
get
out, they're pulling money from kids in care.
Nobody said we should increase it. We have no choice. It
Yeah,
has to
exactly.
increase.
It has to be
There is
increased,
no-
so let's talk about percentage.
But
Let's be ambitious.
but
We
but
want the best.
it's not even. It's great to be ambitious, but there has to be. It's a budget. It has to be based on facts and figures, and that's what we're sadly missing on all of this. We don't know. We haven't got a clue how much that town is going to cost us to run. Let's say that. We don't know how much it's going to cost.
We don't.
We're going to get these figures, come on.
Well,
Let's
as I
get
say,
the figures.
by this time next year, we will be basing this budget, and Kate will be happily sat there with saying, look, I know all the numbers and all the figures, and I can tell you exactly what your budget is. But we don't have that luxury for this coming
So
year.
we're going to have to take a risk.
But if you were starting a business, you would have to say, right, we think we're going to spend that, we're going to spend that, we're going to spend that. It's not a figure that you've been able to work out because you've been going for 10 years.
No, but if I,
This is the same thing now, so we've got to come up with what we think
if
is
I was
going to
opening that
be.
town hall as my own business, or one of my businesses, I would be
I
able
can't
to,
go into it.
I would be able to tell you now exactly, within a reasonable amount, I'd be able to tell you what the cost of running that business will be. Because I would have done the work to work that out. I'll be able to tell you what my staff costs are, roughly what my
We're going to
utilities.
get that. We're going to get those
Right.
figures, but
But-
we haven't got them yet.
No.
We know that.
No. So,
Sorry, it is 10 to 9.
It is.
yeah,
May I suggest that we sort of bring it to a close? Some
What time we
apologies.
scheduled to? 9 o'clock, isn't it?
Apologies
We'll be
on
ready
the-
to finish bang on the dot.
I think the crucial thing is we have got some ballpark figures, but they need a lot more scrutiny and they need a lot more meat on the bones. However, we do have to make that decision, despite
okay.
not
But I
being
would,
so clear.
so here's what I would say. I'd say that first of all, I think
And
that
we need to make a decision on the increase on the precepts.
I would say the 50,
Using these figures.
I would say the £50,000 figure that we've put in for the town hall should.
I think that's
It-
quite large and quite pragmatic, so fair play.
I think that should include at this stage the running costs. I mean, we don't know what it's not.
One.
We don't know what it's. We don't know what our utilities are going to be. But I think that we should incorporate into that the 20,000 for staffing to run that building.
Okay.
So 50,000 to kit it out and to manage it for 1 year.
Again, I'd split that across them.
I think it's a full council decision. If the full council decide they want to spend £25,000 on a grant fundraising, that's for a full council to decide if they want to put 25,000.
Or for a consultant to get more fundraising for us. Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
As I say, I think at this stage, as I say, I think if we take out the £10,000 for cleaning buildings, the £20,000 for the toilet scheme, I'm not saying we shouldn't do that. I think we should do that, particularly the toilet scheme. I think we should 100% do that. But I don't think we should be doing it with £20,000.
At the moment, I've taken out 16,000. I've put it on the street marshal's book. It's for the CCTV. Taken out 20,000 for the toilet things, and 10,000 for the high street, which brings it down to 556,789, which is 18.92%.
What's the actual figure?
556,789.
Oh, sorry, no, the actual preset figure, not as a percentage.
556,789.
No, so for band B counted after.
Oh, clapped out of the air because I haven't had a
No,
vote.
it's all you do is you take the
Based-
preset figure, divide
I know,
it by
based-
4072.
Based on the
Which is
last, if the tax base is the same as
Yeah.
last year, but I don't know, it's 130, for the council tax rate is 136.51, which
So there you
is,
go, that's
which is an
residents.
increase of 18%.
Yeah, so that saves residents £1 a month.
Okay. Well,
This is it, isn't it? I totally get everything you said, John. I really, really do. And I am traditionally a pretty low tax kind of person. But I think as a town council, looking at other town councils that have gone in quite ambitious directions, they've had to make the difficult choices to start expanding the reach.
But-
And I'm a bit late to come around to this point of view, but as, no offence, as local authorities seem to be letting suburbs and parishes like ours down in several areas, and these are the ones we mentioned, and we don't seem to have a plan to make them better. How else do we make them better unless the town council steps in?
that's
Relatively small amounts of money.
don't get me wrong, the precept should almost say itself. But it has to be based on facts and figures. And that's the thing we're missing at this point, is facts and figures. If we had facts and figures and its precept should be 600,000, then it's set by that. But it has to be led by accurate facts and figures, and that's what we're missing.
So do you want, it's nearly 9 o'clock,
Yeah.
so do you want this at the full council meeting on the 4th? The agenda will be going out next week, it doesn't give you that long to get figures together. You can bring it back to the next finance meeting in December, but that means in January, the January meeting, if you bring it back to the next finance meeting in the middle of December, it does mean that in January, the full council see it for the first time and they approve it then.
I think
So I would suggest that it goes to the December meeting, and they may bounce it back to the F&O for further
It
figures.
has to be said in January then.
I think they need the full council need a summary of what we've got and how we've got to this point.
Yeah.
They may decide that some of the things that I've asked to be taken out, they may want to reintroduce. They might have different.
I'll put all that notes, but what I'm suggesting is it goes to the full council on the 4th, so they can see it. That then gives you time to refer it back to the F&O or
Make a decision.
make a
whatever.
decision. You could approve it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well,
You know, but
the way our decisions work as well, standing orders wise, is there's an amendment table and people can propose, or sorry, there's a motion table that people can propose amendments. So rather, the budget is quite big and unwieldy, we're all realising that, aren't we? So I think it'd be quite good to have, for instance, the basic draft budget and just to agree that's the minimum, like you said, there's no officer dibble quibble, we need to do that. And then individual items like that, like say a funding consultant, they will be proposed as amendments and full council will say yes or no,
Yeah.
quite simple. Because otherwise we'll just end up going around in circles. So, full council
Then
might
you'll bring more
decide.
agenda.
No, absolutely.
And I just had thought, so we'll go to the full council in December, so the agenda will go out on Monday, because I have to send mine out a week before. And then in January, if you don't approve it, if you approve it in December, I'm smiling, I'm happy. If you don't approve it in December, it will have to be approved in January, because your February meeting will be too late after the deadline.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, absolutely, that's the deadline we will work to. And even if we have to sit in here all night, we will have that ready for you by the January deadline at the latest.
So as I say, the agenda will go out next week. This will go out with the agenda. But if you have any figures, or if you go and find research and figures, send them to me. This doesn't go out till Monday afternoon. I've got time to add them.
But we've got a week to table things to send you things.
For things like
Well,
running costs
I
and
send my agendas for week work. They will be
Well,
getting
Because
it.
officially, if you want to submit something, you would need
things. Take a lot of them.
We've been caught out
Send us 10 days.
so many things this year
It's just not.
that should have been in last year's budget,
Well,
or haven't been correctly. And we're going to get caught
it's
again.
all managed.
Well, it says in all my standing orders, and
But-
we're finished.
I'm not talking about
Yes,
what's
it's
going on.
It is closed.
But I think
It's all my,
is a sensible thing, but we sort of err on like 30.
in all my standing orders, I
Do you see what I mean?
have a 10-day deadline.
The trouble is,